Hello everyone. Today we are going to start with the font weight property. What is the font weight property? The property font weight specifies the boldness or the heaviness of the font. Means specifies the thickness of the font. A font can be either normal or bold via property font weight. You can even use a number in the range between 100 to 900 to describe the weight of the font. Now we will see what could be the values for the font weight property. Okay, the possible values for the font weight could be normal, it could be normal, bold, bolder, lighter, 100, 200, 400, 500, 600, and up to 900. And the example is how you are going to use this. Simple. Use the selector name, write the selector name, class name, ID name, whatever, where you wanted to specify these properties, write that particular name here, like name of the selector here is h1, then start curly bracket, here define the property name, colon, then define the value as per your requirement, then use colon and then close that particular bracket. So this way you are going to use it. We will do the practical of the same right now as well. Okay, so first of all, so what we'll do, we'll open notepad. Okay, so here what I am going to do is I am going to create a file, uh, HTML file. So first of all, we have started the HTML tag. Under the HTML tag, we are going to start the head tag. Under the head tag, I'm going to start the style tag where we are going to define a style for the different tags. Okay. Then what we'll do, under the body tag, I'll define 2 or 3 tags. For example, I'm defining h1 tag. This is heading 1. Whatever you wanted to feel like writing in this particular tag, you can write as per your requirement. Fine. If you wanted to specify something else over here, you can also define that. But I just instead of h1 I'm using p tag, so that clearly you can see what would be the thickness of that particular property if you are using like that. First of all, I'm going to save it with .html extension. For example, I'm saving it with the font2.html. Okay, in my HTML files folder which is present on desktop, so I saved it. Okay, let me open my file. I'm opening my folder, this HTML files. Here I have saved my file with the font2.html. This is the file. Now you can see this is the output. I'm zooming my screen so that you can see clearly. This is the output of that particular text. Fine. Now here we are going to define the property for this particular tag. Like I wanted to define the properties for p tag, so I specified the p tag. I use the curly brackets. Here I'll define the font weight property. Like first of all, I'll define font weight is normal. By default it is normal. It would not put any kind of effect on it. Okay, let me correct the spellings. Font weight. Okay, then I'm going to refresh my output screen. Okay, this is the normal output because this is the default output for the font weight. Now we'll change the it to the second value, which is bold. Okay, now I'm using this particular value. Now you can see this is the output. Okay, when you put the value font weight is equal to bold, now I'm going to use bolder one. So I'm using font weight as bolder. Okay, here I'm going to refresh it, little more thickness is increased of the text. Then if you are, for example, we are using, I'm using, if you will use 500 value, so it would have the different thickness of the text. Okay, so if I'll use here the value 800, would have different thickness of the text. Here you can see the difference. So this way you can apply the font weight property to your text. Okay, now we are going to discuss the next property, which is the Font size property. Next property is the font size property. To set the size of the font, to set the size of the font, you can use the property font size. There are many different units to describe the font size. Most common ones are pixels, pt for point size, percentage, and em. Okay. For example, if you are going to write the font size in pixels, you will write like this, 30 pixel. If you are going to you write wanted to define the font size in point size, you will write it like this. If you are going to define it within the percentage, then you will write like this. If you are going to define it like in em, then you will define the size of font like this. Okay, now we'll see in the next slide what are these units and what is the role of all these units. The first, here we have the headings. You can see symbol, name, type, and description. Okay, you can see here the first is px. Px stands for pixel. It is of absolute type, means to say that whatever you define the value for the font size, it will be fixed. It cannot change as per any other term. It does not refer on any term. It is the fixed value. A single dot on a monitor, the number of dot is known as a pixel. The number of dots per inch depends on the resolution of the monitor. Okay, so if you are defining the values in pt, which is in point size, it is also absolute. Whatever you define once, that is fixed. Okay, a point is 1 by 72 of an inch. This is the value for the point. If you are defining here the value in em, it is a relative type, means 1 em is equal to the font size of the current font. What is 1 em? 1 em is equal to the font size of the current font. Like whatever the size of your default font, it has that particular value. And if you will write the value as 3 em, it means it will triple that particular, it means it will triple the size of the default font size. Okay. Then we have percentage. Percentage, here the type is relative. A percent specifies a value relative to the current value. For example, you're defining any, for example, you have created a table and you are defining its percentage as a width as 100%. So what it will do, it will occupy the complete space on the screen. Okay, so this way you can define the values in percentage. Fine. So next is, yes, first of all, we'll do the example of this. Okay, we'll edit this code. For example, here you wanted to define font size. Okay, for example, you wanted to define the font size for this only. For example, you are going to define the font size in pixel. Here you are defining font size in as 30 pixels. So you can see this would be the size. For example, now you wanted to define the size in like point, so you can change the unit to pt for defining the size in point. Okay, so this would be the size. Okay, now we wanted to define the size in percentage. So here I'm defining as 300%. That means whatever is the default size of the text, it will increase the size to its 300%. Okay, so this would be the output for this. And after this, if you wanted to define the size in em, then we can define like this. For example, I'm defining 3 em, so the size would be like this. If you would be defining like 2 em, so the size would be like this. Okay, so this is all about this particular font size property. Now we'll talk about the shorthand property, shorthand font property. Like using all the properties to the font property, the order of value for the font property is font style, font variant, font weight, font size, and font family. If you wanted to use all these properties all together at one place, then how you can do this? First of all, you will write font, then you will use colon, Then you will write the value for the font style. Then you will write the value for the font variant. After this, you will write the value for the font weight. Then you will write value for the font size. Then you will write the value for the font family. What could be the values for the font style? Okay, what could be the values for the font style? The value for the font style could be oblique, italic, or normal. What could be the values? It could be the oblique, italic, and could be normal. Okay, so these would be the values for the font style. Okay, then what would be the values for the font variant? Font variant could have two values. It could have small caps, or it could have a value as normal, which is by default. So the font variant could have two values, small caps or normal. Then we'll talk about the font weight. What could be the values for the font weight? The values could be like normal, bold, bolder, lighter. The values could be 100 up to 900. Values could, you can set the values up to this much range. Okay, so the values for the font weight could be these ones. Okay, then the what would be the values for the font size? You can define any size for the for your font. What could be the different units for the font size? Okay, it could be pt, it could be pixel, it could be like it could be percentage. Okay, these are the units for the font size. Okay, what are these? These are the units for the font size. Font size property. Fine. So what could be the values? These could be the values for the font size property. Okay, now what could be the values for the font family property? There is no limit for the font family property. There are number of font styles available. For example, you can use Arial, you can use Times New Roman. Okay, any font style you can use, any font family you can use here. Okay, there are number of font families available with us. So what could be the font family values? There are number of values available, but I am writing only some of them, like Arial, Times New Roman. Okay, so this is about all these things. Now we will write this particular code in one line. How we are going to write this? For example, we wanted to use all those properties in one line. So how we can use that? Okay, for that, what is required is, first of all, give me a second. What we'll do here, we'll write here the font. Okay, then first of all, which value we are supposed to write? We are supposed to write the font style value that you wanted to be wanted to write the text in which format. For example, I wanted to use the italic style, then I'll put space. Then we supposed to write the value for font variant. For example, I want it in small cap, so I am writing this. Then after this, we supposed to write the value for font weight. For example, I'm writing the 700. Then we supposed to write the value for the font size. For example, I want the font size in 30 pixel. Okay, then we is supposed to write the font family. For example, I'm using Vardhana, comma, sans serif. Fine. So I'm putting semicolon. Now I'm using all those properties, all that properties in a single line. So I'm going to refresh it. Okay, you can see all the properties are used here. If here my T would be capital, or if for example my H would be capital, this. Okay, I hope this is clear to everyone now. Thank you.